Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast. Today we're joined by Angela Montijo, a licensed clinical social worker, writer, and educator rooted in youth justice, community care, and liberation. Angela shares their journey as a first-gen Latine from Inglewood, navigating neurodivergence and an autism diagnosis, and how that shaped their push for workplace accommodations and a commitment to living a soft life. This is a conversation about resilience, imagination, and building healing-centered spaces for a more liberated future.
Angela, thank you so much for joining us today on the Beats and Balance podcast.
Yes.
It's great to meet you finally. So let's get started. Do you want to tell people a little bit about your background? What brought you here to talk about creative survival today?
Yeah. I know that in the bio, it was mentioned that I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I more closely align with identifying as a healing-centered relational facilitator. And so it's been a long journey to get to that point and being like, yeah, that's what I do and that's who I am. So I was born and raised in Inglewood, California. I lovingly call it pre-Starbucks Inglewood, California, because if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was raised by a single undocumented parent, very much that first generation experience. I've also dealt with psychiatric incarceration and now currently live with autoimmune disorders and chronic illness and have recently been diagnosed with autism. So all of that, I say all of that to get to the point that it's like a culmination of art, creativity being a salve in my life. I know that there's a culture of like work hard.
Yeah.
No, you will not find me doing that. It's
Right.
a hard pass for me. So I'm trying to live a life of ease and of softness. And I firmly believe that art and creativity is a conduit for that. So yeah, I'll say that.
Very cool. So through your own like kind of lived experience, figuring out what has worked for you has kind of like led into your professional work as well and your healing
Right.
work. Very
Yeah.
cool. I used to live in LA briefly,
Okay.
and I worked in Inglewood. Do you know J Spot, the comedy club?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to bartend there. Saturday
Wow.
nights, it turns into a male strip club. It was a whole.
The world is so small. Oh my God.
Yep. Yep. Shout out to J Spot Comedy in Inglewood,
love it.
California. Yeah, man. Small world. I love Inglewood. This was back in like 2016, 17. So I don't even know how much it's changed just since then. But it was gentrifying rapidly when I was there. So I can only imagine. So yeah, let's get into your personal journey.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. You've said, you've dealt with recently becoming diagnosed with autism, which is a challenge. It's really hard to get diagnosed. And just because you're recently diagnosed, obviously, like that's something that you've been living with your whole life. So that in and of itself comes with like a bunch of struggles when it comes to like, one, like figuring out all the ways that you've kind of like been masking your whole life. And then like kind of unlearning all of those things to get to the root of why it is that you do the things that you do and why it might be harder than what it actually needs to be. Yeah. I don't have a formal diagnosis, but I know that I'm neurodivergent as hell. And so like I've had to do this work myself. Yeah. I have CPTSD, which like affects your brain in similar ways. So I've done similar work. So I know from experience that is a struggle. So how do you manage figuring out like personal diagnosis for yourself while still doing kind of healing work for other people, avoiding burnout for yourself, and still like trying to manage to live like a soft life, like you said?
Yeah, I would say that the starting point for the exploration, I mean, I think the seeds were planted when I won't super self-disclose, but I think it was maybe 2012 that I was feeling helpless and hopeless and just like didn't have a place in the world and was very much like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm checked out. And that was kind of the beginning of my like psychiatric journey. I was also starting undergrad, and as a first generation student, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was put on academic probation. All kinds of stuff was like coming together, and I was diagnosed with ADHD at the time. So it was the first time that I was put on medication, first time that I was interacting with a therapist. And I'm like, what is this? I ended up misusing the medications. So that was that. And after that, it was like one diagnosis after another, after another, after another. And for years and years, it was just like, none of these are making much sense to me. The treatment modalities, CBT, DBT, narrative therapy, you name it, I've been through it. But most recently, I think it was around this time this year that I started working with a trauma therapist, and I started doing EMDR, and I couldn't function. I found that my skills were regressing. And yeah, it was kind of the decision to be like, okay, maybe we just hit the pause button on this EMDR business. And my therapist dropped the possibility of borderline personality disorder. And me being, going through all of this in my studies, I was like, now, wait a minute, that really doesn't make sense. And here's why. So we were going back and forth, and she's like, you're welcome to like do the exploration. I'm here for all the questions. I support whatever you want to do. And I was like, I think I need to figure out if am I autistic? And at this time, I was getting a whole lot of, the algorithm will work in mysterious ways. Yeah. I was getting a whole lot of a lot of videos, a lot of content on my For You page and on Instagram, just being like, "Are you a weirdo? Because so am I." And I was like, hell yeah, I am. Like, why don't I fit in this world? What's going on? So I think all of that content, all of the stuff that I had learned, I didn't realize that it was like, oh, this has been there all along. And there's actually a really big overlap between neurodivergencies and autoimmune disorders because of the way that the body is constantly in overdrive responding to cortisol. So yeah, I got that diagnosis about 3 years ago now. So all of these things are coming together, and I'm like, okay, maybe autism is the thing. And I didn't go through the process to like confirm it. It was really about, well, yes, the affirmation was great, but I knew all along. And really, it was about getting access to workplace accommodations. Finally being able to say, like, y'all cannot push me harder than I can go. And I literally have the documentation to prove it now.
So
right. So it's, it's kind of a protective factor for me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an extremely long process. It was really difficult. There was some grief along with it that I wasn't anticipating. Just things that like I thought were, regular were actually like things that I had missed out on. And I didn't know any better. So it kicked up a lot of stuff, but yeah. I hold it proudly now because I'm like, now I'm understanding myself, and this feels really good.
That's huge.
So, yeah.
I think it can be scary for folks to think about because there's a lot of shame and things that come up with getting, like, even the word diagnosis, it brings up like, oh, something is wrong with you, or like there is something that, you should be ashamed of. And so I think a lot of people avoid kind of delving into what might be going on because of those things, just like literally societal pressures. And it really is like a disservice because like you said, like it is way more stressful to be, I think, in a situation of just not knowing and feeling like something is off, or like not knowing, like, why can't I function? Like for me, for a long time, it was just like, I can't get out of bed. Why can I get out of bed? I spend all my time sleeping. How am I still tired? You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like my body is not listening to me and my body are not having like a conversation. My mind is somewhere else floating in the ether, and my body is just cemented here, and we're two different people. And it took me a really long time, like 28 years probably, before I was like, oh, like this is not normal. Like like people don't live like this.
Yeah.
And that, just having that realization really was like the catalyst of being like, oh, well, now that I know that it's like not normal, then I can do something to change it because I don't like it. And so, yeah, hearing you talk about that and like the journey of getting the diagnosis and dealing with all of even like autoimmune issues and all of those things that can be super daunting, but also like at the end of it, it's like really liberating just to like know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, kudos to you. I think that's super brave.
Thank you.
How does it feel now to like be on the other side of the tunnel now that you like have these resources and you're able to kind of advocate for yourself? Have you noticed like a marked improvement in like your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. I didn't think that I would live past, at the time, I didn't think that I would live past 21.
Mm-hmm.
Then I didn't think I would live past 24.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I didn't think I would live past 27. And, so it's fascinating, and it feels like such a blessing to be on the other side and be like, I'm glad neither of those times worked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that I, like for whatever reason, I'll never know, but I'm glad to be on the other side of it and be like, I know myself better than I ever have before. And there's still so much to learn, be an example for others too. I'm also a peer support advocate. So that's massively helpful. I don't think it would have happened without community, without relationships. During my autism assessment, the evaluator was like, people under the neurodivergent umbrella, they get diagnosed with the entire alphabet of the DSM before everything else, and it's just a damn shame,
Especially women of color.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm over here wondering, like, why is it that I can't keep a job? Why is it that like I'm losing relationships left and right? Like, what is wrong with me? And now it's the reframe of like, no, I need to structure my life in a way that's working with me and for me. So rather than forcing myself to fit in certain boxes or certain molds, like I'm really just out here doing whatever I want, and I'm trying to have the most fun while I can.
Yeah.
Another thing that like has been such a blessing is learning about emergent strategy and like human design. So learning about frameworks that go beyond pathology, right? Like, especially like in the social work bubble, there's like so much emphasis on like clinical practice and expertise. Like the clinician knows you better than you know yourself. And that's just not how I function. So much, I can't help but feel like my mere existence like goes against the things that I've like been taught, So it feels good to just be like, okay, here I am. We wake up the next day, we keep it going.
Yeah, I think it's super revolutionary. It's like breaking out of kind of like, because like social work is kind of like a colonial structure, I would say. Like it was started, as an offshoot of the police, which I think a lot of people don't really realize. But so yeah, when you have like kind of that formal upbringing and education, and then you kind of have these like epiphanies in your own life that kind of goes against everything you were taught or told. I can imagine that can be extremely hard to break out of. I had similar experience, but like not where it was like a professional. It was like, everything I was taught and told from my background, but like there wasn't kind of like a professional license that was holding me to uphold these standards. So I can't imagine how much more difficult it would be to do that in that system or structure.
Yeah.
How have you been able to like kind of make it work for you where you're able to still do what you want to do, but kind of live authentically? And also like you talked about like even in your own life, kind of like breaking out of like the 9-to-5 kind of grinding structure that we're taught that like you need to be productive for this many hours at these exact times. And if you're not able to do that, then like something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are realizing like, no, that's stupid. Like who wants to live like that one? But we all have our own kind of rhythms and cycles that we need to honor. So how has that worked out for you?
So before my current role, I was a school social worker, and I've been working with youth since like, I think my earliest youth development job was like in 2011. So a while. So I mean, just kids just make sense to me. And I really am very interested and invested in the intersection between like education and mental health, right? Like, so I've been working in schools for a long while. I ended up leaving my school social work job because of I was diagnosed with lupus. So yeah, my rheumatologist at one point, I was like just taking a whole lot of steroids just to make it to the end of the day. And like, it was affecting my blood levels, all this stuff. And my rheumatologist ended up asking me like, how do you feel about your work? You know, she's like, you have to understand that like stress is going to exacerbate your symptoms. And like, have you taken the time to inventory the stress factors in your life? And I'm like, don't talk to me like that. That's insulting, first of all. No. don't do that. No, but no, in all seriousness, it really was like, oh damn, my work is a major source of stress. Every time that I was rolling up at that school, I was like, I don't want to go in there. And my stomach isn't nuts and my head aches all of a sudden. And I hadn't noticed these patterns, or at least like not consciously, right? Like it was always there, but I don't think that I was aware of them. So yeah, I ended up leaving that. And then I went into a nonprofit, and I mean, that's a whole nother ball game, but I really, I'm really so grateful that they are understanding of my conditions. They're really accommodating, and the best accommodation is that I have unlimited paid time off.
Oh, nice.
So that is something that like really should be the standard. And I hate that it's the exception. But something like that, I'm able to show up when I have the energy and I can like flow and it feels really great. And I'm not expected to overperform because I still get the work done. It's just on my own time, right? Yeah. Like, so that feels like a massive blessing. And I truly wish like everyone could benefit from it because it's been life-changing. Yeah.
That's super huge. Yeah, I think that's like one of the things that doesn't make sense in terms of even capitalism is like your production would be so much more improved if you could work when you feel well and not like have to push through and be sick and do all these things that affects the quality of your work and also like your morale. It's just interesting to me how we as human beings do so many things that are like counterintuitive to our own benefit.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. Like when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, every job should be like that. But it's like, it's such an outlier that hearing it, it's like, oh, wow. Like it's, I mean, unless you're living somewhere outside the United States. But for us here, unfortunately, in the United States, like we do not have the luxury. Many people don't even have any paid time off at all.
No.
And so like, yeah, just hearing you say that, it's like, damn, like that should be the norm for everyone. How do we get there when it seems like we're going straight backwards in every sense of the word? Like, I'm like, that's not even the first thing on my list right now to deal with. Like people are like out in the streets getting pulled out of their cars. But like, yeah, all these things are super important. But yeah, all right. So let's move to something happier. Let's talk about. You talked about like some of the work you do in the community. How do you manage your relationships with like the community? What kind of work do you do? How do you give back? Things like that.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I'm at a nonprofit, and for the past 2.5 years, a little more than that, I've been managing and facilitating a program that brings groups into correctional facilities. So I went from school social work to working with youth that are incarcerated, and people are like, "Isn't that worse?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." Just because of like the culture of the nonprofit itself. The conditions though are something else, right? Like that's beyond me. But the point being that you know, my work is about relationships. I believe that things are going to happen or simply not happen via a relationship, right? So that's massively important to me. Yeah. So when I'm facilitating groups, I'm well aware that these are youth that seldom get to make a decision in their life, in their day to day. So I'm like trying to give that back as much as possible, like trying to allow them to make choices and have agency, even if it's for the 1 hour that we're together. I'm like, I really don't care what's coming out of your mouth. I really don't care how you sit. I don't care where you sit. Right. So, and I know that it maybe seems so small, so minuscule, but it lends itself to like the comfortability of the space. I also let them know that I am not a perfect being, and I'm going to get things wrong sometimes, and I need them to tell me about it. So that's super important. As far as like community, more broadly, I also know that I cannot accomplish things on my own and in isolation. Like, we need each other. Where things get a little frustrating is like, because I'm very, very much rooted in emergent strategy and abolition. I know that the powers that be are not going to save us. We are going to save us, right? So it's up to us to get creative, to tap into the skills, the assets that we already inherently come with, rather than being like, okay, well, let's wait around for some change to happen, because the trajectory is there. The writing is on the walls. Yeah, it's important to just like tap into the collaboration, and honestly, just spend time with people, like outside of work, beyond work. You know, most of the time I'm like going to coalition meetings and I'm like, I just want to get to know you for you. Like, what is your humanity? Who are you beyond like being an organizer? Who are you but beyond a coordinator? That's really important to me. Yeah. One of them, the principles of emergent strategy is move like water. And the point being that water will always find a way. Water will take the path of least resistance. And so for me, that means that when I find a relationship or make a connection that feels easy and flowing and effortless, I'm going to pour my energy into that one. And let's see where it takes me, right? Let's see what other paths reveal themselves. And that's really like where it's at. I don't spend my time or my energy trying to convince people who don't necessarily see eye to eye with me, because I'm like, I'm not going to be the one to convince you, right? Like, if we're values aligned, we're going to find a way to work together. And I put my faith in that.
Yeah, it's like working smarter, not harder, going against the grain. For people that don't know, Emergent Strategy is by Adrienne Marie Brown. Yes. It's definitely a good book to check out. Yeah, I think that's super important. I think what you mentioned about community building outside of like roles and masks is extra important. I think a lot of people can get caught up in like the sceney part of activism or like Instagram activism. The real community building is like building community, like making friends, knowing who your neighbor is, knowing who the homeless guy down the street is, like being involved in people's lives in a kind of real and meaningful way. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a super important thing to plug and to make sure that you're doing for anybody out there that is trying to get involved in your community. It really is as simple as like going and introducing yourself to your next door neighbor, which a lot of people don't realize. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Let's see, what's a dream or something that you're exploring now that's not tied to your career or to organizing, just like moving out of this realm that we're in right now that seems kind of hopeless? Like, if you could just dream of like what your future is, what would it look like?
Yeah, I have been I've been throwing around the idea of like maybe taking an improv class. I know that like improv is like kind of extremely goofy, but that's what I love about it. I'm getting quite fed up. I'll be so honest. I'm getting quite fed up with like really serious, like intense, doomy, gloomy, heady conversations. I've gotten the feedback that I am able to like have those conversations, but like with some levity. And I think I'm just craving a lot more of that levity. I'm thinking I've also been really into stand up and just comedy, especially lately. Cool. Josh Johnson is the guy. Like, he is just so funny, and I love his ability to tell a story and like hold an audience. And he's like not trying that hard. Nope. I'm a big fan of Caleb Heron. Like, these are people who are speaking truth, but like are doing it in a way that's like, we're going to deliver it in a funny, right? Like, and I love that so much. And I also, something about improv, I'm like, I just want to get out of my head. I want to just like be thrown into something that I'm not familiar with. And I know it's like, that's going to inherently go against like my autism. And I'm like, I want structure and I want predictability. But yeah, I think there's something to like being goofy and silly and playful that I haven't gotten the chance to explore. Yeah, that's, I think I've been throwing it around. I've just been kind of sitting on it because I'm like, I don't know where to go around here. So I got to ask the questions. But
you're in LA.
yeah.
There's a bunch of places.
Oh, I'm in Austin right now.
Oh, you're in Austin. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know Austin. I'm sure there's
I
places
know.
in Austin too. I was like, I could list you some places in LA. I don't know anywhere in Austin, but I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, though. I think I've had that idea before. I didn't do it. This was years ago when I was like struggling with really bad like social anxiety, and I was like, what's something that would like shock my system? And I was like, oh, maybe I should sign up for improv. I think I read that I think it was Bruce Willis or like Harrison Ford, somebody like famous actor signed up for an improv class like later in life and then became like a very famous, I think it was Harrison Ford. Don't quote me on that. But if it's calling you, there might be a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that's super like inner child healing, like the just being able to play and get out of yourself and move on instinct. I think is super healing.
I think that's very much what it is for me. Like I didn't grow up like being able to play. Like play was not a thing. I had to grow up like extremely, basically immediately fast. And so it's been really interesting to have worked with youth for so long. I think that has really kept me like grounded in like, yeah, I just have to stay quote unquote youthful, but what does that mean like for my actual body and soul is where like that question, that curiosity comes from.
Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense. To me, like in my healing journey, it's very much been a regression in some ways in terms of like I'm going back to my younger child self who was like the authentic me. And now I look around and I'm like doing everything that I thought that I could never do as an adult. All the things that I wanted to do as a kid that I like talked myself out of and was like, no, these aren't real jobs. And the healing, all of the extensive healing work brought me right back to the silly shit that I thought I couldn't do, and here I am doing it. So I think that's the goal, honestly. Kind of like deprogramming yourself of all the backwards things you kind of were conditioned with as you grew older, and realizing that you really did have all the wisdom back in the day as a kid. Like your soul knew what you were here to do. And it's kind of just about like remembering what that is. And I think that's the reason why you probably work with kids, for so long. I feel like, you always end up with, whether you realize it or not, like doing what you're supposed to be doing in some kind of way. So yeah, it all super resonates. It's really wild to me that I've had these conversations now. Maybe you're like the 10th or 15th person that I've interviewed. And, I just did an open call. So people from all over submitted to be in, and everybody has kind of had the same strain of like this path that they're on with their healing journey. So it's been really interesting to like see how all of these people from so many different backgrounds are so aligned and so like, I don't even know like the word for it. Like it's weird to see it. Like I'm like, oh, like I feel like I'm having the same exact conversation with, I had with somebody that was in Ireland, with some like all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different jobs, all different stories, but like very similar healing paths. And so to me, that makes me feel like we're all kind of on the right track, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely something to that. It's easy to watch what's happening all around us and be like, oh shit, like we're doomed. Right. But, there are a couple of shout outs here. There's a journal /workbook called Inner Field Trip. I'm losing the name of the author, but we'll find it later. Who talks about like, what kind of ancestor do you want to be?
I like that.
Right. And, so there are different types of ancestors that she lists off. I think one of them is like, familial. And there are a few more, again, I'm spacing on them right now, but the point being that like, whatever it is that you want to cultivate for the next generation, like you got to be doing it right now. So, I think that the powers that be want us to like sort of flop over and be like, oh, boo-hoo, like I'll submit. Like that's not what I am choosing, right? Like others they will do what they want. That's not what resonates for me. And then I'm also backed by Mariam Kava's concept of the fact that like hope is a discipline. And, we can think back to prior generations, activists and community organizers who did the work and never saw the results of their work. That's what I'm committed to. I'll never know the impact that I have on people or the work that I do. I'll never know. I'll never live to see it. But I just have to have faith that whatever it is that I'm doing on a daily basis is doing something. And that's what I'm driven by. Yeah.
No, I think those are super valid. I think when you are living in that way, you do see it, because it's like the way that you choose to live your life. And I think that some people, and maybe I sound crazy, but the way that I've come to figure it out is that like, if you want to step out of the doom and gloom and the constant cycle of depression that this world forces upon you, you really do have to take it upon yourself to live your life how you want to live it and treat people how you want to be treated, and echo out in every way around you the world that you see that you want to live in. And that is how you create it. Like it's really like, it can sound woo-woo-y and all kinds of things like manifestation or whatever, but it really like what you put your attention to and how you behave and how you act is your reality. And so like, if you don't want to be living in toxicity, you have to create that around you. And I feel like if we were all consciously aware of that, then we would live in a much more agreeable planet. It wouldn't be perfect, I'm sure, but I don't think we would be struggling in the ways that we're struggling now.
Right.
And it is really just that simple.
Yeah, I was just gonna point to I was in choir for all through middle school. Then I went to a high school that didn't have any arts or creative anything. So that was a bummer. But then in college, I was like literally in every music ensemble that existed, you would find me in it. And I was just kind of a nuisance. I was like, I'm gonna show up. But the point is, I mentioned choir because, when you're in an ensemble like that, you are not like, the individual is not the one shining, unless of course they have a solo, but the whole point is to be working in collaboration, in unison with others. So once I'm out of breath, I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to the people beside me to make sure that I'm taking my breath when they're continuing and they're taking their breaths when I'm continuing. Right. And we're trading off and we're collaboratively moving in one direction. So I take influence from that too, of like being in a choir and having that experience of like, we're bringing something together, we're creating something together, but we're not all overextending and doing the most. Yeah. Because that's not
creating
how choir
harmony.
works.
Like literally harmony is in music terms and in real life. Same concept, which I love a music analogy. I think that's great. I always look at things in like wavelengths and sound waves, and I think everything is all connected in those ways. And it's true, like if you can understand the concept of singing in a choir, then you can understand the concept of world peace. Like it's really not any different. That's how you build community. That's how you do all the things. And I think it really is a matter of like orienting our minds into just thinking, that like, I think that people get caught up in thinking that like, in order to change the world, major, massive things have to happen. And I'm just one person. And so it's too much and I can't do it. But if you can really conceptualize that changing the world really is about your individual action as a person, like each individual person just needs to change their behavior ever so slightly, and the whole world would shift. I think when people have that perspective, it becomes a lot easier to be like, oh no, like I can do something. Like all I have to do is like not be an asshole. And like, that's it. I've done my part. Um, it's really
And this
that
is why
simple.
I'm constantly running my mouth about emergent strategy, because another one of the principles is small is all, small is good, right? And so when we think about everything that's happening around us, white supremacy, cough, cough, right? Like that didn't just pop up out of nowhere. That happened between a conversation, just like you and I are having. Two people got together and were like, hey, this is what I've been thinking. This is what I would love to see in the world. And the other person is like, I agree with that. I'm assuming, right? I'm assuming. I agree with that. Let's do it. I'm going to go talk to my buddy over here. You go talk to your buddy over there. Let's see if they agree. Now we got 4. Now we got 8. Now we got, right? And we're exponentially growing in all of that. So the systems didn't just come up out of nowhere. And because they didn't just come up out of nowhere, we cannot deny the power and the potency of individual microscopic interactions.
Oh, of course.
Right? Like, again, small is all, small is good. Everything that is large is made up of the small.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is the power, right? That's why they spend so much money in keeping people distracted and having you work all the time and having you scroll all the time and keeping people divided. Like racism and all those things benefit nobody but rich people. Yeah. Everything is a matter of keeping people controlled and not talking to each other and keeping people divided. Because once you realize that we all have the same common interests and everything would benefit each other the same way, there's nothing to fight about. But if you're not fighting, then you realize, oh, I don't need to be working like this for this person. And then the person that's benefiting from your labor is out. And so I think like once people also realize that, like you're being conned, like all of this is all just a giant con to extract your labor. I wake up, like your life could be so much better. And it is so simple.
Go touch some grass. Yeah.
Like step outside of the matrix. Just take a breath outside and you breathe and I trust you. Your life will be so much improved. But I think we're getting there. I have faith that people little by little, and it might take some wild disruption and destruction. I think that's what we're going through now. All this chaos feels like kind of a great awakening where it's like I feel like the universe, like, and I think this is an emergent strategy as well. I read that book when it first came out, so I don't know it verbatim, but I do know the theory. And it does resonate with me because it's how I think about the world as well. But like the concept of like the universe or the earth goes through destructive periods naturally on purpose, the forests will burn and they have to, and that's how you kind of get new life. And I feel like that's also what we're seeing kind of on a large scale, like these disruptive capitalist systems are crumbling and burning, and because the world is out of whack and it's out of balance and it's balancing itself, and that sometimes looks like mass destruction. But on the other side of that is the regrowth, and I think that's where folks like you and me and a lot of people I've been speaking about seem to be oriented on, like, all right, like we're aware that things are falling apart now, but what's after that, and how do we make sure that what we build from the destruction is something better than what we had before, so that we're not still continuing this cycle over and over again. I guess all that is to say, I feel hopeful in the midst of much despair. Talking to folks like you, it feels good to feel like, all right, like I'm not crazy. There are other people out here having these same kind of experiences and putting in the work to like figure themselves out, because I really do feel like the revolution is individual. It's going to happen one by one as we all have our like own epiphanies and break out of our own kind of mental slavery, as Bob Marley would say. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't hit, or anything that you want to plug, anything you have coming up?
I'm always running my mouth on Instagram. I'm always running my mouth. I am at Angela Alchemy. And that's because I really thoroughly believe in change. Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, God is change. And I really firmly believe in that. And not on some like overly religious shit. Like if you know, you know, right?
Yeah,
so
no,
there's that. So I'm always running my mouth, and I'm trying to lean more into like long format content. Cause I also like to write essays. That tends to be my creative outlet. My mind, as you can imagine, is very busy, and I need to get that out somewhere. So it's not that I'm hoping to monetize it. It literally truly is just like an outlet. And I hope that people take something from it. Cause I have been, if you can see in the background, I've got many, many books, and books have truly saved my life. So I hope to contribute to that someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any plugs. I exist out here, and just know that you're not alone.
Appreciate you. And definitely wishing you much success in all your writing and your future book to come. Let us know when that comes out, because I feel like you've just put it out in the universe. So now it's got to happen. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And, peace and blessings and all that for everybody.
Yay.
Our vibes stay sacred. Our roots run deep.